issue. And I've got a presentation for you. I realize it's midnight, but let's just do it. Thank you very much for your patience on the whole thing. Everybody went home, or they went to Tasty Burger. I want to go to Tasty Burger. Tasty Burger is awesome, but we will all get there. I have something that's going to really help you, okay? I want to launch into the presentation first. I guess I don't even need the trombone, but I will later, because we're going to discuss high issues, or actually, I should say, we're going to talk about endurance. We're going to talk about high range development, and but before we do all that, I have this really great practice techniques tutorial that I want to walk you through. And it's practice techniques that I came up with when getting ready for auditions, all right? For auditions, you typically have, your first round, your prelims, and then you have your second round, you have your semifinals, and then you have your final round. And I kind of built my practice techniques around winning a job. And in retrospect, maybe that wasn't the greatest thing, but I realized that in that is a paradigm for success for all of your practice. And that's what I want to present to you. In the first round, let's see if I can bring this up here, this presentation, this lovely presentation. The first round, we're presented with an agenda that we have to establish. It's the 3 T's, time, tune, tone. Time, tune, tone are the basis of what your practice should be when you're an undergrad. When you're an undergrad, you have to develop consistency with good rhythm, good pitch, and good tone quality. If you can generate a golden tone quality throughout all the registers that you're required to play, if you can generate great pitch and reliable, convincing rhythm, you're going to go very far. I and many of my colleagues generate curriculum around helping students to become more and more consistent with the 3 T's, okay? Time, tune, and tone. Now, if you're on an audition committee, actually this is the major grease pit, the thing that people have to overcome to generate success into the next round, all right? If you can't play with good pitch, good rhythm, and a good tone quality, you get to go home. That's literally the fundamental first thing that every orchestra is going to be listening for over all else in every audition you go to. Now, you can flub, I guess, you can have a mistake, what you might call a concentration error on these things, but usually if people can't maintain the 3 T's throughout all of the audition repertoire that they're required to play in the first round, they are going to go home. Now, when you get to the second round is built up of people that can all demonstrate the 3 T's, no problem. And so how does a committee decide from there to pick only a few people from these very great musicians to the next round? And for that, we come to inspiring musicianship. And let me know, I mean, if you're seeing these little cue cards, I actually worked pretty hard on them. These cue cards are just to try to remind you what we're talking about. I'm not the best orator in the world, and definitely at midnight after a long day, who knows? The most important thing that you get from this paradigm is the inspiring musicianship, all right? Inspiring musicianship is how you decide in a field of people that can all demonstrate the 3 T's, no problem, how you get to the final round. Can we take these people that are very reliable, very technically sound with their abilities on the trombone and whittle it down to just a couple, 2 or 3 people, and that's typically who it is that can generate inspiring musicianship. Now, how do you practice inspiring musicianship? This is really important. How do you practice inspiring musicianship? And I submit to you, how much responsibility are you taking for your own inspiration every day? You practice your long tones, your lip slurs, you've got your arbons, your Bordoni Rochus, and I want you to ask yourself, take responsibility for the fact that you actually have to practice inspiring musicianship as well. And where that inspiration comes from typically is going to be from your teacher. So we're talking about whenever your teacher decides to play for you in a lesson, you are going to be receiving inspiration. Okay? You go to a live concert, you are receiving inspiration. And I'm wondering if you took great responsibility for your inspiration and as a part of every practice session to be inspired, if you wouldn't be a more inspirational musician yourself. And it doesn't take an hour of listening. You don't have to listen to a whole recital or even a whole piece. But the fact is that you have access to Spotify and YouTube, and you can connect with inspiring musicianship as a part of every practice session. Now, I have these Bordoni etudes that I put on YouTube for this exact purpose. I want to reach people like yourselves and connect with inspiring musicianship with the idea that you yourself can demonstrate inspiring musicianship as well. And I suggest also that it isn't just me. I mean, it should be pretty obvious, but it isn't just me that you should be connecting to musically. And in fact, it probably isn't even trombone players that you should be connecting to or finding inspiration from. Myself, I really enjoy listening to vocalists and listening to their great phrase technique. There's a couple of reasons why. Number one, I enjoy the fact that they are elevated to the highest level, sometimes above conductors in their career prowess. And it's not because they can sing the loudest or the highest or the lowest, although they can generally do that in part. It's usually because of their world-class phrasing. World-class phrasing. All right? Now, I think that as trombone players, potentially we get seduced into thinking that grand technique is going to win the job, save the day, be the thing that makes it most inspiring. And let's be honest, nerds that we may all be, that is pretty cool. When somebody can tongue really, really fast or play really, really loud, it's exciting. And yet, if that is the height of our artistry, it's a little sad. It's usually a combination of all of these things that come together, right? But if you if you're crafting your practice sessions around playing as loud as possible, potentially you're missing some of the inspiration that a committee would be after. The thing I would leave you with for this inspiring musicianship section is that you play your lessons probably for trombone players and you receive the most feedback from trombone players. The musicians that you trust are typically going to be trombone players, and yet they're not the ones that are going to be hiring you. Usually it's a wealth, an amalgam of the orchestra that has experience playing. They don't really care if you can play really, really loud. All right, and that's that should be food for thought, and maybe inspire you to look for a wider spectrum of musicians for your own inspiration. Right. So this is, again, the first round. Let's review and see if I can do this without messing up. The first round, you got the 3 T's: time, tune, tone. Okay, and then you've got the second round, and in a group of people that can all play consistently with the 3 T's, we need to hear inspiring musicianship. Now, the last round, typically you've got 1 or 2, at most 3 people. 3 people on stage at different intervals, and they are all going for one job. And this doesn't get talked about very often. And I want to submit to you the way that you win the job in a group of people that can all play the consistent 3 T's, and they're all inspiring musicians. How do you choose a winner? And this is what I think it is: adaptable musicianship. Now, the reason I came to this is because I got to several final rounds. You may or may not know, I've taken a lot of auditions. I've lost a lot more auditions than I've taken. And there was a few times that I got to the final round and I didn't win. And I noticed that in the times that I didn't win and the times that I did win, it was always the same. The conductor came on stage with me, the music director, the boss, you know. And you know, there might be times as well that I was playing with the section or playing you know, with the principal trumpet, but especially for a principal job, it always was the conductor coming on stage. And I had very much research to support what I believed was the last word on how to play my excerpts. And always I had a conductor coming on stage asking me to play them different. Now, I submit this to you because, you know, many of you, like myself as well, you know, for a while thought, gosh, if I could just make it out of the first round. But there actually is a hierarchy. If you can adapt your practice to be like, well, I'm going to take care of the 3 T's. I'm going to take care of my inspirational musicianship. And then I'm going to make sure that I'm adaptable. Then it won't matter. You actually can play all 3 rounds with all 3 strategies intact, and you have a shot at winning the job. You ever have this feeling like you go to an audition and you get past the 2nd excerpt, the 3rd excerpt, they're like, oh my God, I thought they would have sent me home by now. I have to keep going. And it's kind of rattling. And then you get to the 2nd round, you're like, well, what are they looking for? They're asking for the same excerpt again. This can really allay those fears because you know what to expect, okay? Adaptable musicianship. The last round, somebody's going to come at you and say, can you play it different? It might be first trumpet, it could be your new section, it could be somebody from the committee. Can you play it different? And this is one of the main reasons that it's important, it's crucial that you play in a brass quintet. I really believe that this is fundamental to you building the chops to keep the job. That's how you get your tenure, is being able to hear first trumpet out of the mix or first horn and know when you have the melody with the tuba and how to make those octaves match or make the blend to be cohesive. This is really important and fundamental to you not only keeping your job, but also to be able to survive the section playing. With the conductor telling you to play things different, I invite you to consider, with great respect to your teacher, that it's important to get other ideas on how the excerpts go, sometimes even radical, right? Now that's not to say that you're finding a new last word on how you want to play it, although that actually might be the case. It's to say that you want practice changing your playing on a dime, right? Change it immediately and see how effective that you can be with your musicianship, because that's what the conductor is looking for. They want to see that you can be flexible to his or her artistic agenda, all right? And that is you working on your professionalism. But adaptable musicianship is the final thing that you need to do. And let me just check in with the comments. Yeah, I don't see any new comments, so I'm assuming that we're all in heated agreement that this is a really cool way to approach a practice. The last thing that I would tell you, the way that you bring all of this together, it kind of goes without saying, you already know this, but I want you to consider what tools you need to practice this 3-pronged approach to audition prep. Time, tune, tone. What do you think you need? You need a metronome, a tuner, and a recording. What? Yeah, metronome, a tuner, and a recording device. I'm just realizing that my adaptable musicianship is still up there. Let's take that out. Okay, so most people have the metronome and the tuner. You got a phone, you probably have it on there, right? But the recording device, this is fundamental. This is, first of all, a way for you to double check that your tone is golden all the way through, but also you can check that your rhythm is convincing and your pitch is convincing, because there's a lot of times that because of the harmony of the melody, if you think about something like tuba mirum, right, we have a very harmonic first line, or potentially D valcura. It's a very harmonic melody all the way through. And your thirds might not be right up and down to be, I mean, just with the tuner right up and down, your thirds might be a little lower or raise a little bit depending on the harmony of the melody that you're playing. I say that your rhythm and your pitch must be convincing. All right? This is a different way to look at it all, and the best way to do it is not necessarily while you're playing. It's actually via recording device. Okay? So all that said, the recording device can be a really great way to see if your musical agenda is actually making it all the way across the finish line. There's many times that I was doing my mock auditions when I was coming up through the ranks, and I would do crescendos and diminuendos, and then I'd go back and I'd listen, and I discovered that these were barely perceptible events. Okay? It's really helpful if you look at your musical agenda, kind of break it down to its smallest parts, and then see if what Mahler wrote for you to play is actually dictatable as an event at 25 yards. Because that's about how far away the committee is. And they have the music, and they're looking at it, and they're just basically going through it on a checklist. Did he slur there, or did she articulate there when it's actually marked to be slurred? Does that make sense? So let's see. The inspiring musicianship, the golden tone quality, the pitch, and the rhythm can all be verified by the recording device. And it helps you to practice not evaluating yourself while you play. This can be crippling to your artistic process, is to spend too much time evaluating yourself while you play. Remember that you can be an artist or a critic, but you can't be both. You can't be an artist who's critiquing himself or herself while you're trying to demonstrate your incredible ability, right? So, yeah, that's what I have to say about that. Oh, man, we only have 27 people here. All this because I just couldn't figure out the technique of it all. Hello from Serbia. Wow, that's really cool. Oh, I'm so glad you showed up. I'm really glad you're here. This is, yeah, I'm trying to figure this software out, and it's, I don't know what I did to fix it all, but we just had a really rough time getting everything together. We had chairs, I don't know if you can show it, we had chairs all set up for a studio audience, and a couple of extra microphones set up. Maybe they were the problem, I don't know. But yeah, I sent everybody home. I just had to sit down for a little bit and think about how crazy everything is, and then try it again, because I'm stubborn like that. Yeah, let's move on in this masterclass evening as it is. It's 12:30 at night. I had an interesting question come up about high range development and endurance, and I wanted to talk about that specifically. I think that this is a common problem. This is something that people come to me a lot, and I was not blessed always with great high register, and I feel like if I'm not careful, I'll go back to not having great high register. It's an athletic event. It can be an athletic event to develop your high register, but if you look at it like an athletic event, the tone will never open up like a flower into a resonance like we want it to be. When you play in the upper register, the thing that you have to remember is that you're not allowed to fail. I'm just moving some mics around. You're not allowed to fail. This is a hard one because people kind of get excited when they feel like they're building their strength, right? When they're developing their high register, and they get to this place where they're playing Zarathustra or Bolero for the 8th, 9th, 900th time, and their face is like hamburger, and you know, they take their horn away, and it looks like a horse stepped on their face. And I want to suggest that the best way to develop your high register is to not allow yourself to fail. You need to practice your high register, but if you're consistently hitting against failure, what's actually happening is the lips are so tight that they're shutting down the sound, all right? And your body remembers this trauma of not getting the note, right? And that's what you're going to remember next time you play, whether you're fresh or not. So when you're practicing actually endurance, when you're practicing your loud playing, I want you to go for this vocal golden tone quality as much as you can. And that might relegate you to a little bit lower than you actually want to play. Like if you want to play a high D, there might be a little while that you play melodious etudes up to a high C, you don't really do the D, okay? And that's okay. Is the C a golden tone quality? Yes? Good. Don't push, right? Don't turn it into a physical event. This is a really challenging thing for younger players to connect with because it feels maybe like you're not doing much of the work. Now, in this situation, I said I don't want you to fail, and that you could potentially get yourself to a place where you would think that it was okay to practice only 30 seconds of high register, and that's not what I'm suggesting. What I want you to do is change what was a physical activity into connecting with breath support, okay? Instead of having the strength here, we want the support here, okay? And so what I want you to do is take maybe a Bordoni, because we all know them, and insist on abundant support and as much relaxedness as you can have up here. You should have structure. Can you zoom in for me? Have structure here and here, and then as loose as possible here, okay? So you can have a feeling of I hate to say strength, but let's call it structure. Here and here, your chin is flat. Don't let it go under. None of that. Okay, so your chin is flat. You got this, and then this is as loose as possible. There's probably going to be some structure here, but you can understand that if you don't have the structure or the breath support, you're going to start to push the mouthpiece into the face, right? Or you're going to tighten up so much that the tone is just shut down. There's no resonance. You might get the note, but there's not going to be any resonance. So let me show you what I'm talking about. And this will be an opportunity to check in with the audio again. Let me just do a couple of test notes here. Okay, so I was just trying to turn up I only have the one or the two Neumann KM184s up there, so I was just wanting to turn them up a little bit. Let's take a Bordoni, oh shoot. Yeah, let's do number 2. That one doesn't seem to get too high. Yeah, all right, so if we take it as written, it's no problem. Okay, what I want to do is show you how I work on my high register in tenor clef and then up an octave. And what you'll see is I'm insisting on abundant support. Okay, and that means that I'm going to practice my high register, but I'm not going to worry about taking short breaths. I want to have as much support as possible, and then rest all the pressure or the strength that I would think that I need. Instead of strength, I'm going to let that go and let that be from the breath support. All right, this is sounding a little convoluted. I'm realizing that the best thing to do is to show you. So here we go. So hopefully what you see there is me playing a very familiar melody, and I'm taking wide intervals for the breath. And the reason that I'm doing that is I don't want to ever drop below 90%. Think about like a 5-gallon bucket full of water, and I need to fill a shot glass. Okay, that's kind of what it is in the upper register. And so what I do is I just tip it slightly, even though the bucket is full and there's no problem of filling the shot glass. I just want to fill it with a trickle. That means that I don't have to, turn it upside down. And unfortunately, that's what happens. The less air that you have, the more you actually do need to turn it upside down to generate the breath support necessary to play up there with any ease of tone production. We're looking for a golden tone quality, right? And that's not going to come with effort. If you use physicality, it'll shut down the sound, and we'll get, at best, there's no resonance. So let's try it again, but this time up an octave, and hopefully we'll see the same thing. Let's try that again. Okay, so, I'm not playing it perfect. Shoot, at 12:30 at night, who is? But I want you to understand the philosophy of it more than anything else. The idea is that I'm connecting with abundant support, and I'm really trying to avoid failure. Okay, so I'm not concerned with playing it super soft. I just want to get the notes and get used to playing them well. Okay? You're not allowed to fail. Success begats success. Success begats success. You just start building, and actually your body remembers it. Your mind remembers it. Your heart remembers it. Under pressure, you have more possibility, a higher chance of connecting with that success because of this exercise, okay? So just like William Tell, starting it out at 80, and then going to 82, and then going to 84, and then so on and so forth until you get to 108. You do the same thing here, except it's not with tempo. You actually just shorten the interval over time. You just shorten the interval of the breath so that you can keep that ease of tone production intact while you play with this beautiful, beautiful tone and cantabile, okay?
We have a question from Juan that can this exercise be applied to the low range too?
Juan is wanting to know if this can be as a way to practice the low range. I've never had to develop my endurance for the low register before. I'd be curious to know what you mean by that. The low range, I have a feeling you're talking about kind of wasting the air, playing like triple forte. Let's put our horns down for a second and just talk shop. I don't know. People were asking me about mouthpieces, equipment, or how big is too big? When do I stop? I want to be an elegant trombone player. When you're talking about playing the low register and sort of wasting the air, I'm guessing that's what you meant. Forgive me if that's not what you meant, but I want you to remember this thing: efficiency. Efficiency is the shortest road to elegance. okay? If you find yourself under physical duress, odds are at one or several points on the road, you're hitting a place where you're not efficient. There's a physicality there, okay? That's one of the reasons that I enjoy using the rim when I buzz, because I can, do you have one? Yeah, so if you can zoom in on this, usually when you're playing efficient, you get a really clear buzz on the rim. Right? When I open the lips wide, typically I'm playing less efficient. Now there's a reason why. If you get a really windy buzz, typically you've got a lot of sound, but only for a short time. You're going to run out of endurance really quick. But a windy buzz would be with the lips spread apart. Okay? And this typically happens when you're playing really loud in the low register. You lose the focus, right? Now, essentially what I'm doing is I'm opening the lips wide and I'm letting them teepee into the mouthpiece. And what the problem is sometimes they get stuck there, and when I need to play soft or high, the lips are doing this into the mouthpiece, and it has a tendency to squeeze. The sound is squeezed at best, and then essentially it collapses. Right? You ever have this feeling like you're playing loud and you run out of endurance and the lips won't buzz anymore? Okay? If you practice with efficiency and elegance as a fundamental goal, then odds are this isn't going to happen. In the low register, I don't want you to necessarily waste the air, practice this this inefficient fortissimo. The way that you play loud is to have the most resonance possible, and that's going to come from being super efficient. Okay? Now, you might find yourself playing with huge quantities of air, but I want you to check in with when your phrases get super short, because odds are you're playing really, really inefficient. All right? Yeah, I want to check in myself with any of the comments.
Ty has a question about how often do you work on the high range? Do you work on it really hard every day?
I work on, okay, so the question is, how often do I work on my high range? And yeah, it's every day, but I think that people may be misunderstanding what it looks like. I don't play high range with a bad sound very often. And when I do, I'm like, okay, maybe I need to rest. And sometimes I need to rest more than a couple hours. I think that if you're anything like me, when I was in school, I thought that the right thing to do was to play a Bordoni in entirety up an octave. And that's not what I'm suggesting here. I would say take 3 or 4 lines of a Bordoni and practice it the way that I just showed you. Okay? Just practice it how I just showed you. And then let a couple hours go by, have lunch, have a coffee, or both, and then practice again and do that again. Okay? Practice 3 or 4 lines of a Bordoni in tenor clef or up an octave. And what you're doing is trying to connect with elegance. Remember? Efficient elegance, right? So odds are you're not going to practice it more than like 5 minutes. Okay? But if you do this 2 or 3 times a day, you can see how success begats success. You start to shorten the interval. You connect with easier upper register, and your endurance starts to improve. But it's not because of strength. It's actually because you've become a better trombone player. The way I have to give credit where it's due. The place that I found this actually was when I was studying with John Swallow, and I was having a lot of endurance issues on the second phrase of Bolero. And so he had me practice Bolero like this. And so this is how he had me practice it. And you notice that it was in the same way that I showed you how to do the Bordoni, which is to just take as much time as you need to breathe so that you come back in feeling supple and easy. You essentially, instead of practicing with faster and faster metronome, you just practice shortening the interval. And in so doing, you connect with being elegant, with being efficient at all times, and you're not practicing poorly. Repeat after me. I know you've heard it before. Practice makes permanent. Practice makes permanent. If you practice it over and over and over again, sounding like crap, that's how you're going to perform it. Okay, so I want you to connect as much as possible with this golden tone quality. And there's ways to do it, but you have to think outside of the box. And this is one of the ways that I did. Another way that I do it is with the rim. And all of these things seem to generate really tangible results. It does take a little bit of time. I need you to remember that high register is the slowest thing to develop. High register and range. And you just have to be patient. But I want you to practice it with the idea that like 5 or 6 times a day with dramatic success is going to start mounting up. And the trick is to do these smaller, shorter intervals of practice. And then you can start to increase the amount, but never at the cost of you failing, because practice makes permanent. Play with a bad sound over and over again. Why would you think that it would ever change? Okay?
Ty says thank you very much. Great advice.
Okay. Thanks, Ty. I'm not seeing any new comments. We've got 31 people. I'd say we've gone for a good 45 minutes. And do you think I'm missing anything, leaving anything out? I'm going to review this later on just to see if the sound is acceptable. I really appreciate the people that hung around. Please give me a like and a subscribe. YouTube is really being helpful with making this happen, and Wirecast is the software that I'm using, and I just think that there's a learning curve that goes with it. So forgive me for not having that figured out, but I will, and I'm going to keep doing these things as long as people keep showing up and keep having questions and comments. Yeah, like I say, give me a subscribe, tell your friends, try to make this happen, reach more people with a little more ease of connectivity. This way I don't have to fly all over the place, or you don't have to fly to me to get a lesson. It's really great to celebrate the trombone community in this way, and to see you all practicing. Typically, this is the time when I always practice the most. I love practicing late at night, and so if you're like me and you start to get bored, you put the horn down, and I'm here waiting to say hi. It's a really cool thing. So yeah, tell your friends. I'm sorry, there's one more thing.
A couple of people have asked if you were going to keep this online because they missed the first part. Someone just asked, could you do a quick recap on the 3 stages of audition success? They have pen and paper out.
Oh, okay. All right, no problem. I'm kind of proud of this. This is why I don't really have a problem going over it again. The question is, can I go over the three-tiered approach to audition success? Okay. All right. So, number 1, we've got time, tune, tone. Okay. Pull out your metronome, your tuner, and your recording device to verify that it's all there. If you can approach every excerpt, every etude, every solo, first and foremost, you have got to play with a consistently good tone quality. It's got to be convincing rhythm, and it's got to be convincing pitch. All right? I'm realizing that there was a really great question that I saw on Facebook, and that is, I think it was from Will Timmons. He's probably gone to bed by now, but he asked a question that is extremely apropos. And he said, how do you manage your audition chops? Because typically practice feels great, and then you get to the audition and it doesn't feel so good. When you practice your time, tune, tone, you need to be practicing it that you can get all of these three things on your worst day. Okay? Most of us are just like, you know what, if I have the right breakfast and I have just half a cup of coffee and I avoid dairy, and then if I get my 22-minute warm-up, and then I need to do my listening, and I have to make sure that I get the 7 hours sleep that I need, and I have to have my 8 cups of water, 8 cups of water, then everything's going to be just so, and then I can play my best. And that's typically not the way that it works. Usually everything has gone wrong. Everything has gone wrong, and you don't feel like yourself. And then you go to play your audition, and it's just a catastrophe. You have to practice so you can't miss. Okay? It's a different approach. Okay? Run around and then play bolero, right? Or try to play tuba mirum at 3 o'clock in the morning, just out of bed. I don't know, things like that. These can be little challenges you can give yourself to feel a little more bulletproof, but it's a different approach than most undergrads are looking at, masters even as well. I want you to think about getting your excerpts just right on your worst day. They're that consistent, okay? Time, tune, tone. If you can't do that time, tune, tone with all the excerpts in the first round, you get to go home. Second round, what do we have? We remember, you have to be an inspiring musician, okay? Inspiring musicianship is fundamental to getting from the second round to the final round, all right? And if you are hoping to be an inspiring musician, you have to take responsibility for being inspired. Ask yourself, when's the last time you saw live music, live concert, okay? Live recital. Not just of your colleagues, but of somebody who was world class, somebody that was inspiring to you, okay? Not just a trombone player, okay? Now, if you say, okay, once a week you can do that, that's a good thing, but then also, we live in a Spotify, YouTube world. There's really no excuse that you can't make this a part of your daily practice, even every practice session. Just take 2 minutes and listen to somebody inspiring and try to learn from it. Don't let it just wash over you passively. Try to learn from this incredible musicianship and make it like a virus that you want to be infected by, okay? That you consistently expose yourself to inspiring musicians, okay? So that gets you from the first round to the second round. The inspiring musicianship gets you to the second round. And then how do you get to the third round and get the job? You have to be an adaptable musician. This is a little harder to practice, and as part of your practice, what I would encourage you to consider in your audition preparation is to get lessons from teachers that would ask you to play excerpts completely different. Okay? Quite often, especially from younger players, they're looking for what you might call the last word. This is how you play De Valkyrie. This is how you play Bolero. This is the only way that can be played Mahler 3. And people in my position love to talk like this because it makes us feel really good. Like, this is how you do Mahler 3, and to do it any different doesn't make any sense. In fact, if you do it different, don't call yourself my student. Okay? I can't remember the last time I said that, but I know people have said that to me. And that's okay, but I want you to consider that at the last round, always the conductor comes on stage and asks you to play excerpts different. And you have to practice the ability to change your approach on the fly. Okay? And to me, the best way that you can accomplish this is to take a lesson from a teacher that's going to ask you to play it completely different. Okay? All the excerpts completely different. And that's not to say that you're looking for a new last word at all. You could completely disagree with what the teacher is asking you to do, but you need practice doing it so that you can get the job, get to keep the job, because the conductor wants to know that you can follow his or her artistic agenda. Okay? You can also practice adaptable musicianship by playing in a brass quintet. And this is really good practice because in an orchestra, similar to a brass quintet, if you're playing with a trumpet, if you're playing with a horn, odds are everybody's hoping to hear the horn or the trumpet over you. And you have to practice figuring out how to contribute to the sound of the ensemble, but not get in their way. All right? How to contribute and elevate their sound as best as possible, their artistic agenda, and not detract from it. This is actually a skill, and to me, one of the best places that I practiced it is in a brass quintet. It's where it was fundamental to every part of my college instruction was to be in at least one brass quintet. And I actually attribute to one of the reasons I always got tenure in every job I went to. Every job I won, I always got tenure, and I really feel it's because I used the skill set for brass quintet to play in the orchestra. So that's it in a nutshell. Really good question. I'm glad that I was able to make sure that was driven home, because I think this is really important. You take these 3 fundamental aspects of winning an audition, you apply it to every practice session. I can't really say that one is more important than the other. You take it as a holistic approach. But this allows you to manufacture or be the architect of your practice in such a way that you have a shot at making it in the trombone world. Okay?
I have a question of the night related to part 1. Do you recommend using a phone as a recording device, or do you recommend a different device?
Do I recommend using a phone as a recording device or something different? I think I actually wrote an article on my website. And in fact, there was a couple of questions before about a warm-up routine, and there is PDF warm-ups that I've done myself available on my website. Please check it out. And I did a blog post about a year ago on if you want to get better fast, you got to record often. And I think I was using a Sony, I can't remember the exact name of it. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. The thing is, right now I'm using a Zoom Q8. I have it right here. This is what it looks like. Don't get the Q4, I don't think it works, but the Q8 is really handy. I like it because it has these twin XLRs in, so I can add an extra mic source. But you see these opposing microphones up here, and they have a level adjuster right here. I love this recording device so much. I think this is about $300. You can get something similar to this. I think it's a Panasonic device. It does 720p and really great audio for less than $100. And it used to cost, back in my day when I was in undergrad, my Dr. Beat cost $100. Just a metronome. When I was your age, a metronome cost $100. Now you can get a recording device, and your metronome is on your phone. Yes, you can use your phone. The short answer is yes, you can use your phone, but I don't think that it's doing your tone quality service. And in fact, one of the most important things about the 3 T's is a golden tone quality. So I don't believe that that's a good use of your resources to rely on your phone to make sure that you're playing with a golden tone quality. So think about how much it costs for a violin bow. Still like 100 times what it costs for the best trombone you can buy. If you had to spend an extra $100 on a recording device, it's really not that big a deal. Any other questions? No? All right, well, hopefully next time goes a little smoother. I really appreciate your patience. And like I say, subscribe if you can. It really helps out a lot. Tell your friends about it. But yeah, really trying to do something amazing as I can on YouTube here. And there is a learning curve to it, but I'm having a great time. And I'm really glad you guys came out. So let's call it a day and get a good night's rest. Hit it again tomorrow morning, okay? Remember, practice makes permanent, and you want to be an elegant trombone player, okay? Good night.